attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
As a woman stands there with her weapon drawn, she approaches slowly and looks in. She's expecting to see something different. It to be organized, it to be clean. However, she just stands there watching, as it is bloody. The walls are soaked with blood, and there he stands, the one-eyed king, as he's feasting away on people, feasting away on their corpses. He tore them apart, piece by piece. Some of them were torn apart first, so they didn't have to watch each other die. However, there is someone still left alive, and the monster walks over to them, before simply jabbing his fingers into the man's eyes, and making it a quick death, as flames begin to dance around him. And this person just watches that happen, as he turns around with a smirk on his face, before continuing his feast. Now, hello everybody. This is Kira's show here. Now, whenever we last left off, Midoriya, he has just been through something traumatic. He had to have something pulled out of his brain, and he has been in a coma for about a month, after having to feast on Eto's flesh, biting into her arm. Now, she and Momo have begun their own operations, leading the, organizations. They still do see themselves as their own separate thing, not the actual Origiri, as I like to refer to them. Now, the white suits do listen to commands, splitting up in between the two groups and maintaining contact with each other, since these two groups are having difficulties trying to communicate. Now, with that being said, Eto, she begins to order around and boss around her own units, while Momo and her maintain contact with each other, and begin to do the same thing. Now, they are working on rebuilding, and currently trying to make a world Midoriya can come back to, while Yoshimura, the older gentleman, will be looking after the young boy, and making sure that he will stay alive. Now, it is going to be a bit harder and a lot more challenging. So, let us cut to roughly about 3 months later. Now, they are simply sleeping, and they are both laying on the same bed, as there is Midoriya directly in the middle of these two. As today, instead of the usual body shifts and some sort of mumbling, he actually does wake up, opening both of his eyes, and getting up. Getting out of bed, as he basically has to climb over one of these two, and both of them are half awake, and trying to figure out what is going on. Momo is rubbing off her eyes, while Eto simply tries to roll back over. and go back to sleep. As both of these two do actually place their hands on the spot where Midoriya is, where he's supposed to be lying down. And there's nothing there. In fact, they do just feel the warm spot he was laying in, before both of them do immediately look at each other and hear something. Both of them turning to see him suddenly just standing up and staring out of the window, before he just quickly is scanning it and looking around, looking down at his hands and blowing them up in a fist, trying to get used to this. As both these two are completely in shock, jumping out of the bed and immediately almost tackling him. Basically just trying to ask him if he is doing okay, and if he feels any better. To which he kinda doesn't have any words. Just saying, um, where am I? What are you talking about? We're back at base. You had us startled there. You gave us quite a fright. Uh, sorry, but who are you? Really? You don't remember us? Are you okay? Listen, it's hard to explain, but you were injured. Something got in your head. Or was put there. What are you talking about? You were hurt. Was I? I don't remember. Wait, wait. Both these two understanding this a bit better. Whatever Midoriya was going through, apparently he has amnesia. And that is not good. Now, they do try and explain to Midoriya a little bit of things, simply throwing out little pieces here and there to see if they can jog his memory. Nothing really happens. And well, Yoshimura, who was awake at the time, he does knock on the door and find out what is going on, welcoming the young boy and bringing him into a hug, telling him that it is finally happy to see him up and about again. You gave us quite a scare there for a while. However, I don't believe you should be up and about just yet. You were out for 4 months. 4 months? Yes. Now, I do believe that we need to eat. Are you hungry? Now, Midoriya's stomach does actually growl a little bit. He does feel hungry and it kinda hurts. What is that? Now, they do take Midoriya to a table, and quite a lot of people do see him up and about, as they do want to cheer on and scream out that he's back. Now, some of them actually do. However, Midoriya simply just takes a couple steps away from them anytime they try and get close to him, or reach out and try and grab his arm to stop him to ask questions, as he is currently in the warehouse, and he is sat down and has a plate brought directly in front of him. A piece of red meat. Him just staring at it for a minute and being a little bit confused. Asking exactly what is that? Oh, that's food. You're hungry, you should eat. You need to get your strength back. Uh, okay, but can you tell me what happened? How did I get hurt? Well, that's a bit more complicated. You see, what we know is that you were hurt by a guy named Amari. Really? Why? Well, Eto simply just pausing for a second. He doesn't know anything about ghouls, and if she's going to tell him that he is a ghoul, then it's going to be simpler. She has not gotten orders from her boss in a little bit of time, the one-eyed king, the one who leads Origiri. He stopped contacting them after a bit of time, so Midoriya had to step in. So that means one of two things. Someone either killed the king, or the king has abandoned them. Abandoned his own kind. So, what they need right now is another king. Someone that the Origiri Tree organization will respect and actually listen to. As Eto goes on saying that Midoriya is a king. Momo looking at her a bit confused for a second, and trying to pull her aside to talk with her. Midoriya, hearing that he's a king, sort of just eats while having that thought in his mind. A king? A king of what? Do I rule this place or... No, a king wouldn't live here, right? They'd live somewhere different. Now, Midoriya, after these two are done talking and discussing things, they find that it is going to be the best choice. Now, Momo, she's been abducting and selling people to high-ranking ghouls in the underworld to provide money for them. Now, Momo has been doing that in somewhat of a desperate attempt to get money. Sadly, they've ran out, and it became harder and harder for a little bit of a time there. In fact, even whenever they had their plans months ago, they were barely running on fumes. And they're actually starting to turn profits. Since you'd be surprised at what a ghoul is willing to pay just to eat someone. Especially if it's someone they admire. Now, with that being said, Eto does actually talk about what she's had to do too. They've mainly been trying to focus on the CCG. And, yeah. Counterattacking some of their own warehouses and units, it was a bit easy. They gained the upper hand for a little bit of time. But then they got turned on again. The CCG now is just marking down places to look for ghouls. And restrictions are getting heavier and heavier and heavier. In fact, they have to delve outside of that little marker Midoriya hates. Taking innocent people. They've had to do that for some time. In fact, Midoriya is currently eating someone who's innocent. Now, they do go back to him. And give a bit of a backstory. One that they both agreed to. Midoriya, yeah, he is a king. Explaining to him that this title he got from killing someone, and he needs to make sure that their species can survive. Now, Midoriya hearing about this, one-eyed king, species, and other things, he's not too sure what they're talking about. Until they begin to show him things. Show him information. And it's a bit horrifying to look at. The CCG has a page on the internet where they try and intimidate ghouls. Some ghouls have seen their friends on this page. And yikes. It never ends pretty. Especially whenever Midoriya does see some of the things these people do to their people. This is horrifying, and it's downright disturbing. Now, these two do go on telling Midoriya that that is just half of it. They keep hunting them down, all because they exist, and that is the only reason. They have tried peace, but the CCG does not care. Now, that part is what catches Midoriya's attention. They don't care. They don't want peace. They just want extermination. They want to exterminate us, stomp us out like bugs. Now, Midoriya actually does look a bit angry by that, as he simply just asks, what do they need to do? And this is whenever they tell Midoriya simply one thing. They need him. Everyone respects him and will follow his lead. And that is just it. Midoriya has already been doing so for the past 2 years. So they're going to need to reacquaint him on his abilities and draw them out again as they begin to teach Midoriya and allow him to learn. Now, they are teaching Midoriya, and he's beginning to relearn all of his abilities. Some things are coming naturally, like the Kagune manipulation, and, well, his Ukaku, and his tail Kagune. Now, he begins to learn more things, though. Learn more than he ever has before. Along with spending more time with these two. For Eto, she's never really had someone who's done this. Someone who has tried being there for her, and now she's there for them. While for Momo, she saw Midoriya as a very strong person. However, now he's different. And she feels like a mentor to him. Roughly around 3 years ago, the roles were reversed. But look at them now. And it's a bit sad. However, he is quickly relearning his abilities, along with being put out onto missions with them, and going out. Midoriya is a natural fighter, and he does get a bit lost in it sometimes. So it does prove that that's just him. Midoriya will fight for everyone around him. He will fight for something he believes in with his heart's content. And that is still the same as whenever he was fighting a few people tonight, and he hurt someone or killed them, he was a bit grief-stricken. However, he was aware that these people would not hesitate to kill him. And they began to work on a different operation. This being the anniversary of the 3rd year. The 3rd year, meaning that rounds out to the rest of the entire 8 months. In roughly 4 months, it will be a year since Midoriya was stabbed in the head. And that is just it. Tonight's operation. Something that he's a bit more curious about. They are breaking into a CCG prison. And information shows Bakugo will be here. Along with the fact that they do need more people on their side. These ghouls are going to be given a choice. And the ghoul sympathizers, they are going to be given a choice too. They can be human assets, and very, very helpful to them. Now, with that being said, Midoriya's older exterior, or this new shell he's grown, has hardened. It wasn't an easy life, especially trying to relearn some things, and getting glimpses of the previous one. As he can remember battles, things that do try to haunt him, but he doesn't try and pay attention to. Now, he simply is fighting against multiple people and taking them on as he uses his Kagune, using it in an offensive manner before using it defensively to protect himself. And well, this is whenever he just keeps on using it more and more and more. This being the bad idea, since he's beginning to lose himself, and things are beginning to get foggy in his mind. As he finally picks up this man from the CCG and begins to beat him across the face, before smashing him into a wall and punching him in the gut hard, harder and harder and harder, as he blacks out. That is all that has happened. Midoriya blacks out. And, well, yikes. You do have something going on. And investigator Katsuki, she does hear a commotion, heading to go check it out and seeing what is going on. She was stationed here to observe something. Observe trial runs. However, this happened and they put the place in a lockdown, as she finds a giant hole in the wall and takes a peek inside to see what is going on. As the one-eyed king currently has a half Kakuja on his face. Midoriya has the owl mask there, and he is simply eating away at multiple people at once. These screams that were coming from here are silent, and she simply watches as he is just eating through all of them, gnawing through someone's arm, before simply going on to the next person, and feasting on each one of them. All of these people were Ghoul sympathizers, and they were innocent. They either helped the Ghoul in their past or were accused of it. And they were not criminals. The CCG considered them to be. But then Midoriya simply just looks up. And there's that look in his eyes. There's that look on his face. As he rushes forwards and simply begins to scream out, trying to attack her. As soon as Midoriya leapt onto her, she immediately brought her hand up and blasted him in the side of the head, hitting him with an explosion, as she was able to make one of his ears start ringing and blood began to pour onto the ground, as she simply blasted him more and more, before reaching for her Quinque and simply immediately deploying it as it stabs Midoriya's chest. And she gets her feet underneath her, kicking him off of it. Midoriya simply jumping backwards and hitting the wall, before getting back onto his feet, and staring directly at her. Before he can go to rush forwards though, Momo actually does intervene, getting directly into Bakugo's way and simply telling her that something isn't right. Listen, I don't know how to explain it, but for right now, let's just keep it at this. He killed them. What? He killed everyone over there. Are you serious? Shit. Now, before anything else can really happen, this is whenever gas is deployed. And Midoriya does try and rush forwards, to attack both of them. Eto quickly coming in with her owl form, before simply smashing her hand directly up through the metal floor, and grabbing onto Midoriya. And, surprise surprise, she basically has to jab him in the back of the neck with her other hand, to knock him out. Now, she quickly grabs onto Momo, and leaps away. Bakugo just staying there for a second and trying to process it. He's different? No shit. He just murdered people. Now, that is whenever Bakugo, she is actually part of the cleanup, trying to figure out what just happened. He looked like he was enjoying what he just did, like he was enjoying playing a butcher. It was actually very disturbing to see. That smile on his face. She has not seen it before, especially whenever it was like that. And there was blood soaking his teeth. Now, with that being said, Momo and Eto do take Midoriya back to the base. And eventually he does wake up, and they try and get an explanation out of him. Him not really sure what they're talking about. And, well, trying to figure all of it out on his own. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing night. I'll catch you guys in the next part.